Okay, I wanted to give you a little help with Lab 1. I'm not going to do the whole thing for you, but I'll walk you through some of the idea here of what I'm trying to get you to understand. So you have to read this to start with very, very carefully and try to comprehend what I'm going for. The idea is to create the unit circle. I can give you the unit circle and you can memorize it, and that's all fine and dandy. But if you memorize something, well, for one thing, that's hard. And for another thing, you're not going to remember it forever. If you understand how to generate it, then it's a lot easier going forward. And we're going to be using this thing throughout the entire semester. So that's why I've created this lab. It says, the unit circle is a degree with a radius of 1, generated by the most used angles in trigonometry of a circle. We're starting with the 90-degree increments. It says 1 revolution of a circle is 360 degrees or 2 pi radians. We will begin our task by creating a circle with a point every 90 degrees or pi over 4 increments. Below is a blank circle that we'll start with. So, for every 90 degrees or pi over 2, I just see that. That should be a 2 right there. We'll have to fix that. Okay, so every pi over 2, we're starting with the point 1, 0 right here. And then every pi over 2, the next 90 degrees or pi over 2 is at the point 0, 1. So if we go another pi over 2, the question is, what is this point? Okay, what is this point right here? So plug in. Then go another pi over 2 or 90 degrees and plug in this point. So we've completed our 90-degree rotations. So here we can go ahead and plug in. Well, it's already plugged in for 1, 0 and 0, 1. And you'll plug in the points over here. So you'll plug in this point and this point. Okay. Next, we want to look at every 45 degree or pi over 4 rotation. So it says, rewrite the points we found in part 1 on the circle above. So we've already done that. Now mark the above circle at every 1/8 of a revolution. For example, the first 1/8 of a revolution is 45 degrees. What is this angle, 45 degrees, in radians? So you'll plug that in there. And that's something you should be able to figure out from your notes. 2/8 of a revolution is already done. You can see 1/8 was here, 2/8 was pi over 2. So that's already done. So we're going to go to 3/8 of a revolution. At 3/8 of a revolution, the angle is, I'll go ahead and do this one for you. We've got 45, 90, 135 degrees. So you're going to write that in here and over here. And it tells you that is also 3 pi over 4 radians. So we're going to write that right there. Another 45 puts us at 180. So you can see that here, or pi radians. And then another 45, I'm going to take this out, puts us here. So you write the degrees there and the degrees after 270. So to get there, you're just going to add 45 degrees from 180, gives you this angle, and 45 degrees from 270 gives you this angle. Please excuse the kitty. Okay, what corresponds as far as radians? It says the first radian was at pi over 4. That was 45 degrees. And so the next one was at 90, and then we went to 135, or 3 pi over 4. Adding another pi over 4 gets us to pi. If you add pi over 4 to pi, that gives us to the third one. So you'll just go over to the side and say 3 pi over 4 plus pi. You've got to get a common denominator, so that'll be 4 pi over 4, and that'll give you the number that goes right here in radians. Then another pi over 4 gets you here. Add pi over 4 to 3 pi over 2, and that gets you this radian. Okay, so now we've finished the degrees and the radians for every 1/8 rotation. We need to find the points. So if we look at this picture here, you can see that this is a 45, 45, 90 triangle. And in a 45, 45, 90 triangle where the radius is 1, which this is a unit circle, so the radius will be 1, then you can go through these calculations here and find that each side is root 2 over 2. If that's the case, let's read through this. So each side of the right triangle measures square root of 2 over 2. Then x is square root of 2 over 2, and y is square root of 2 over 2 at that point right there. So the point corresponding to 1/8 of a revelation is square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. And so we put that in this blank here. Then moving forward, it says we must find the remaining 3 points. On the opposite side to the left at the 3/8 revolution, so I'm talking about right here, we have the same right triangle. Here, though, the x value will be negative, so it tells you that x is negative root 2 over 2. But y will still be positive. See your x value going out there to this point is negative, and the y value is positive. So here it tells you the y value is root 2 over 2. That's what you put in this blank. And then you go over and put it in this blank. Find the remaining 2 points. So you just have to think, if you come down here, then what is, if you're still dealing with root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2, but which one's going to be negative, x or y? And if you come over here, which one's going to be negative, x or y? Okay, so it's the point is root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2 in each case, except for in this one, the x is negative. Here, something else is negative, and here something else is negative. So you have to figure that out, which you can do. Okay, part 3 asked us to go through each 1/12 of a revolution, or every 30 degrees. So, write the 30-degree increments in degrees around your circle. So 30, 60, 90, and 120 are already there. No, 60 is not there, and 30 is not. So let's put it in. So here's 0. Right here we would have 30 degrees. Then another 30 degrees is 60 degrees. Let's do that in a better color. And then another 30 degrees took us to 90. Then you'll add another 30 degrees to get here. Another 30 to get here. Another 30 took us to 180. Then another 30 to get us here, and so forth, all the way around the circle. And put in those numbers right there also. And then we want to do the same thing in radians. So we have pi over 6 radians first. So looking at our picture, the first one, we start with 0, and then every 30 degrees is pi over 6 radians. So here you'd have pi over 6. Pi over 6 plus pi over 6 gets you 2 pi over 6, or pi over 3. Pi over 3 plus pi over 6 gets you pi over 2. Then take pi over 2, add pi over 6. That's going to get you this number. Whatever that number was, add pi over 6, that's going to get you that number. Another pi over 6 will get you to pi. And then keep adding pi over 6 to get each 30 degrees after that. And also, you can write them here. You can see we started with pi over 6. Then we went to 2 pi over 6, or pi over 3. Then 3 pi over 6 was pi over 2. Can you see what I'm doing here? We've got pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6, 4 pi over 6, 5 pi over 6, 6 pi over 6. Then you keep going, okay? That's why I've written it out like this, so you're just counting as you go and reducing each fraction, and then you can go back and plug in to your unit circle over there. Okay, and then the last part, we have to find the points for each of those. So if we look at a 30, 60, 90 triangle, where the radius is 1, so this one here, then opposite the 30 degrees is 1/2, and opposite the 60 degrees is root 3 over 2. So if we look at this point right here, then the x value is this value, root 3 over 2. And the y value is this value, 1/2. So we can go put that back on our circle. you can see the triangle if we drew it right there. The longer side is root 3 over 2, and the shorter is 1/2. And then to find each point across and down, across will be in the same order, but one of them's negative. Down will be in the same order, root 3 over 2, 1/2. But think about what is negative. And over here, same order, but think about what's a negative. And then last, for pi over 3, then you've got this triangle. So here, your x value is 1/2. Your y value is root 3 over 2. So plug in that point and then think about going around the circle, what's negative from there. And that should finish you up. So I hope this helps. Let me know. Email me if you have any more questions after watching the video and reading through carefully.